My daughter, 15F, is being blackmailed into giving her baby up for adoption. Turns out it's by our own. Her boyfriend, they lied to me about his age. He's 20, but it's still legal here, dumped her yesterday after she told him the news that she's pregnant. And today in the afternoon, she told me. We cried a little. She said she didn't want to talk about it for now. Then, before I left for work, I work from Sunday to Thursday, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., she dropped a bomb. She wants to keep the baby. We couldn't discuss it because I was almost running late, but we scheduled it for tomorrow afternoon. My problem is that I can't afford another kid. I raised her and her sister, 11, alone in the last 9 years. Their father is a deadbeat, and I receive minimal child support. Putting it into perspective, my kids' school meals costs are 3 times the amount of child support I get. Our apartment is tiny. They both have an 8 square meter room, while I sleep on the living room couch. We're living paycheck to paycheck. I'm skipping meals so they can have enough food. Public childcare is full. Private childcare is unaffordable. Until that baby is 3, someone has to be home with it. Then they can go to kindergarten or preschool. But then what? A baby doesn't need much space, but a toddler/preschooler needs a room of their own. I only have this apartment because I inherited money. There is a raging housing crisis in my country. She will definitely not be able to afford to move out with a preschooler. But I don't want to pressure her into an abortion. Edit. Please stop with the religious stuff. I grew up Catholic. I am the 5th of 7 children. God kind of forgot to provide for us. We were in and out of foster care. So respectfully, quit the BS. And we are not US citizens. We live in the middle of nowhere in Hungary over in Europe. Here are some relevant comments. One user asked, but how did your daughter allow her boyfriend to approach her and have a physical relationship with her? Then OP replied with, they go to the same school, but my daughter is in first year there, and the guy is in his last year of technicum. It's 2 extra years after graduation. They both lied to me and said he's in the 3rd year. My daughter didn't want me to freak out. Then another user said, hi friend, deep breath. To clarify, you said it's legal where you live for a 20-year-old to engage in activities with a 15-year-old? That is truly horrific. Screw that guy. He is a predator. I would really recommend finding a good therapist for your daughter to talk to. And family therapy could also be helpful to help facilitate some difficult conversations that will be coming up. Sending love. Then OP said, in Hungary, the age of consent here is 14. Then another user said, the baby, hell just the pregnancy in some states, will help her qualify for aid. The state will go after the father for child support if she applies for aid. That said, there is a possibility of a healthy, for her and the baby, compromise in an open adoption. I would also try to get her first scan. There is a decent chance it's non-viable pregnancy, and the issue is moot. I would be fairly brutally honest, but not cruel, about the reality that you simply cannot support another person. And if she insists on trying to fly too close to the sun on wax wings and hope, ultimately, you can't really stop her. Then OP replied with, we're not living in the US. Here, the aid maybe covers the diapers, but if you cannot breastfeed, you are screwed. Update. First, I want to address a few things. 1. Trying to use a child's crisis for your own benefit is effing disgusting. What is wrong with you? There was more than one person who sent me a private message wanting to adopt. 2. I grew up in extreme poverty, so let me tell you, God will not provide. So counting on that is kinda stupid. I'm an atheist too. 3. Thank you everyone who commented, talked, or just listened to me. I was panicking and terrified when I wrote the first post, and I just needed to get it off my chest to be heard. I appreciate your time and effort that was made towards me. Now, on to the update. Yesterday night, we talked a little about what exactly happened, and long story short, her ex pressured her into sleeping with him, and he refused the condom because it's uncomfortable and he will be careful. She didn't realize at first that her period is late because she still didn't have a regular cycle. Her first period was in April last year. She told her bestie what's happened and she bought a test a week ago and it came back positive. Then she worked up her courage to tell me, and here we are. As we checked, she is probably 8 to 9 weeks along, or at least the last time they slept together, which was a little more than 9 weeks ago. Today, I took her to the OBGYN. After some scolding from a doctor, he checked her and by touch estimated a 7-week-old pregnancy. Then we went to an ultrasound check and found out that there was no heartbeat. There is no viable pregnancy. The only problem is that the miscarriage hasn't started yet. So she got an appointment to Friday for a cleanout. I was relieved a little bit. I was more worried about my daughter, but to my surprise, she looked relieved. On the bus home, she cried a little. She didn't want to talk, but just said some "I'm okay, Mom" and stuff like that. I told her we're going to talk about it later, whenever she's ready. Now, on to the crazy part. Around 1 p.m., she got a call from her friend, but I was the one who answered it. It was her friend's mom, and she immediately started questioning my daughter, why she wasn't in school. Is the baby okay? Did she tell me about adoption? Like, what the hell? She clammed up when she realized she was talking to me. She acted like she was just worried about my daughter, etc. It was fishy. I woke up my daughter from her nap and warned her that I am on my last crumbs of sanity right now, so talk. She started crying and between sobs told me that when she took the pregnancy test, her friend told her mom, and the mom called her friend who is on the wait list for adoption, and that 2 grown-ass women bullied my daughter until she promised she's going to give the baby up for adoption. They even made her watch the Silent Scream movie. I am enraged. The only thing that stopped me from planning a homicide is the law. Oh wow, this story is crazy, and I kinda wish that we got a little bit more details on the ex-boyfriend just so that we have more reason to dislike him. Because I don't feel like if we got any more info, we're gonna be like, wow, what a great guy he is. Let's have a beer with him. No, boo this man, boo. He is 20 and then impregnated a 15-year-old girl. Oh my goodness. But the age of consent there is 14, which is crazy. Oh my God. I don't even want to get into that. But I don't even have a question for you. It's just, I don't know. This is a crazy one. But hopefully it all works out. I'm glad that they don't have to take care of another baby because it doesn't seem like they would be able to. So I guess there's an upside for that. Next story. Story number 2. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my wife, who I'm currently separated with, didn't tell me she was diagnosed with cancer? My parents were well off and worked hard, but they were neglectful towards me. By the time I was 10, they decided I didn't need a nanny anymore, and then I didn't have parental figures. They spent all of their time and energy at work and didn't have time for me at all. When I met my wife, she was a vibrant, intelligent, caring woman. She would give you the shirt off her back. We spent hours and hours together talking about everything and anything, but it slowly slowed down. She would come home from work, crawl immediately into bed, and watch TikToks for the next 3 hours. She wouldn't engage, would barely do anything, and only did chores sometimes, and ended up paying for someone to do her share. She would always say she's tired, and then stay up all night sometimes, or sleep for 18 hours. It was awful to see her glued to her phone or computer instead of engaging with me. I asked for separation. It was really hard because she cried and begged me not to, and I still loved her, but being with her was like a flashback to my parents. We both knew that separations basically always end in divorce. An old friend of my wife's recently reached out to me and cussed me out. She told me that my wife had cancer, and how dare I leave her during a tough time. I had no idea she had cancer. I asked my wife, why did she hide it from me? And she said that I was divorcing her, and she didn't want to guilt trip me into staying or be manipulative. I asked her how long she had known, and she found out 3 weeks after we separated. I told her she should have told me. I had noticed her hair seeming thinner, and she just seemed more frail overall, but she brushed it off as stress. Honestly, I'm really upset that she did not tell me. So, do I have the right to be the a-hole? Edit. Only now did her hair start to thin and that she looked weak. She looked obviously ill. For 3 years before that, she wouldn't get out of bed and alternatively sleep through the weekend and stay up on weekdays. I did all of the chores, but she felt guilty and hired a housekeeper for cleaning. I did all of the cooking. What I saw was a profound disinterest in me. She didn't want anything to do with me. She wouldn't go on a walk with me. She wouldn't go out. She wouldn't read a book. She'd just lie in bed watching TikToks. Her daily screen time was 14 to 16 hours. I made doctor's appointments. I cooked food. I tried to get her up. At some point, she just wouldn't even entertain going to the doctor. After years of her telling me that there was nothing wrong with her, doctors saying she was lazy, and blood tests showing no issues, and her still lying in bed, I was tired. If we had known that her body was shutting down, of course I wouldn't have just left. I just wish she had actually went to the appointments I had set up before I asked for a separation. I am going to help her any way I can. Here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, me. She looked sick, but whatever. Me. And then OP replied with, I asked what was wrong and if there was anything I could do to help. I even dropped off a few meals because she was too tired to cook. Would I have separated if either of us knew that she had cancer? No. Then user 2 said, oh, you asked 2 questions, even dropped some food. What a generous, magnificent man. Sure, poor OP, he did everything in his power, and he's probably gonna win the Nobel Prize. Now seriously, what's wrong with you? How can you be so self-absorbed? Then user 3 commented, you're the a-hole. You noticed her hair was thinner and she looked frail. Clearly something was physically wrong with her, and her doctor was being dismissive. You are her husband. You should have been her advocate when she was too weak to advocate for herself. You were so wrapped up in your emotions and childhood trauma that you neglected your wife. Then user 5 said, and yet you didn't advocate for her? You didn't think, no, something else has to be wrong. It sounds like you dismissed her. Leave her the hell alone now that you've made your decision. You separated from her. And then OP said she wouldn't go. I made specialist appointments and begged her to go to them. She just refused. I tried offering her therapy. She said she didn't need it. I couldn't drag her to the car. She went to a primary care physician and they drew blood there and sent it to labs. She told me that she said she was just lazy. She said she was being lazy and a bit burnt out. I made specialist appointments and she refused to go to them because the original doctor said she didn't have depression. She was just lazy and her blood tests came back normal. Only after we separated did she go to a doctor again. Update. I talked to my wife. I called her and asked if she wanted to talk. She said okay. When I came over, I noticed that nobody had been over in at least a few weeks. My wife is a clean person, so there wasn't a mess, but it was clear that she was doing it on her own. I apologized for everything. I asked her why she didn't tell about the cancer. She said that she felt guilty because she thought we would go through all the effort and find out she was just lazy and I would resent her. Then she thought when we separated that she could just go to a few appointments to show that she was physically fine. And it was along the way that she found out she had cancer. She felt really bad because she didn't go to any appointments I had made. She felt guilty because she knew I would come back if I knew, and she didn't want to make me sacrifice for her when she had dismissed my concerns for years. She sobbed and said that she really felt like she was just being lazy and tired like before. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said a few times during school she had these intense periods of being really tired and unable to get out of bed. Her parents took her to a doctor, but there was nothing wrong. It wasn't caused by anxiety, and she didn't feel depressed, just incredibly physically tired. Her parents and doctor dismissed it as laziness. I don't like her parents. I said it didn't sound like laziness. It sounded like a real medical issue. I'm going to help her figure it out, but to me, it sounded like an autoimmune disease or a flare-up. I told her I always believe her. I believed her when she said she was just being lazy after 3 years of trying to get her to a doctor. And I would have believed her if she had been honest with me and told me what she went through as a kid. She just kept sobbing. I comforted her, and after she cried, I checked her fridge for food. There were only a couple of things in the fridge, including some frozen food I had dropped off before. I asked if she wanted me to go grocery shopping or to come over to my apartment for some food. She chose my apartment. I grabbed a few things for her and I took a laundry basket of dirty clothes to wash. At my apartment, I drew her a bath and cooked dinner for us. She didn't have any clean pajamas, so she wore mine. We had dinner. She just kept saying thank you, and I told her she didn't have to thank me for anything. She's my wife. Of course I'll take care of her through the cancer. She said she made me do all of the chores before too, and she didn't want me to go through that again. I told her that she was sick and tired, and I can do everything again if she stays honest with me about how she feels and doesn't dismiss it as her being lazy. We ended up cuddling and she fell asleep pretty quickly. She's been asleep and awake throughout the day today and yesterday. She's been a bit clingy to me, and she looks a lot more comfortable. She's probably going to stay in my apartment, so we'll have to figure out how to break the lease on hers. I'm not going to divorce or abandon her. She needs a lot of support. So, fellow viewer, I am really curious about this one. So what do you think? Is the a-hole, is not the a-hole, somewhere in between? I don't think OP is the a-hole here. He tried to schedule the appointments, and that one person essentially laughed at his trauma. What? I do think that OP could have done things a little bit differently and better, but at the same time, for seemingly 3 years or 2 years or however long, he was trying to set up appointments. And throughout that whole time, the wife wasn't going to the appointments. So he just thought, oh, my wife is lazy, because she thought she was lazy. And why did the wife think she was lazy? Because her parents and the doctor just dismissed it and was like, oh, you're lazy. So when a negative thing that affected OP as a child gets materialized as an adult and gets laughed at and dismissed, but at the same time, the wife had something negative happen to her as a child, and then that materialized as an adult. And obviously, we didn't learn about that until after the comments, but like, you see how there's so many angles here that you just, in my opinion, I don't think you can reasonably, black and white, say, oh, you're the a-hole here. You're the a-hole here. You can't simplify this story. There's so many angles to this, but what do you guys think? Next story. Story number 3. My sister claims she caught my girlfriend cheating with a friend of mine. They both deny it. My girlfriend and I have been dating for a little over 3 years. Everything was great until about 6 months ago. We stopped sleeping with each other as much as we used to, and I'll admit that's mostly my fault. Work got really stressful, and I had some family issues I had to deal with, and unfortunately, my relationship suffered a bit. We talked, and I promised to put more effort into us. I do think things have gotten better overall, but I know we both still have room for improvement. But despite everything, I absolutely love this girl and I don't want to lose her. Last night, my girlfriend told me she was going to the club with some friends after work. I did not think anything of it. They do this from time to time, so whatever. Last night, around 11 p.m., my sister sent me some text messages saying she saw my girlfriend and my friend making out at the club. I didn't believe her, and she said that when she went to grab her phone to get proof, they had stopped, but were still dancing very intimately and did manage to get a couple of pictures. It made me very uncomfortable. I asked if they left together, and she said she doesn't know. Here's the problem with all of this. About 4 years ago, my sister told me she had a crush on my friend. She confessed to him, and he turned her down. Hard, apparently. He told her she's not his type, and that she's way too young. According to him, she was persistent, and he ended being a little mean about it. She was really hurt by it, and even now she refuses to speak to him. It took her a whole year before she could even be in the same room as him. As far as I know, she has a decent relationship with my girlfriend. They aren't friends, but are friendly. This morning, I sent the pictures in a text to my girlfriend and my friend and asked WTF was this. They both said all they did was dance. I told them they looked really close and that it was really inappropriate. She told me I'm being paranoid. I told them what my sister said, that she saw them, and after a bit of arguing, my girlfriend said either I believe her or my sister. I told her I don't know what to believe and that I need time to think about that, and she said, whatever. I messaged my friend privately and asked him to explain everything. I basically begged him, and he has not messaged me back. Not answering me feels like a sign of guilt. I don't think my sister would lie about this, but there is a part of me that thinks she might have saw an opportunity to hurt my friend for hurting her. Or maybe I'm just being naive? I'm really not sure what advice I'm looking for. I just don't know how to go forward. Update. So I figured I would give an update about what happened. They never texted me back. At all. I probably would have never heard from them either if I hadn't told them I just wanted the truth. They agreed to come over Monday night and explained everything. The long and short of it is that they did go back to his place and they did sleep with each other, but claimed it was the first time. About 4 months ago, they ran into one another after her and I had a very bad fight that I don't remember, and he noticed she was upset, so he took her out for lunch and they talked about our relationship and me. They exchanged numbers. She ended up texting him about 2 weeks later later after I went fishing with some friends for the weekend, and apparently have been texting daily and hanging out 2 to 3 times a week. My girlfriend then went into extreme detail about exactly how I've pushed her away these last 6 months. I told her I thought things have gotten better after we talked about everything, and she claims it got better for about maybe 2-3 weeks, and then it was right back to where it was. I asked why she didn't bring it up again, and she claims she did. I told her regardless, she should have just broken up with me and that cheating on me shouldn't have been her response to what was happening between us. She agrees that she screwed up, but says I share blame in this as well. I asked her if it was just them sleeping with each other, and they both said no. I also asked why not just tell me the truth when I confronted them with the pictures, and they said they panicked. I asked him if he had anything he wanted to add, and he said that he's sorry it happened the way it did, but he's not sorry that it happened. I told him there are dozens of women out there he could have gone for. Regardless of the problems between her and me, he didn't have to go for my girlfriend. He said she hasn't been my girlfriend for 4 months. I told him to get out. I don't really know how I'm feeling right now. I hated them when they walked in and when they left, but now I don't know. I went to remove her from social media last night, and she had a picture on her Instagram of the two of them. I skimmed through the comments, and some people were asking what happened to me. Some people were congratulating them and saying they looked cute together, so that didn't feel great. I also apologized to my sister for throwing her under the bus. I didn't realize that I did that until some people commented that's exactly what I did. She said she doesn't care if it meant finding out the truth and getting them out of my life. I will probably stay single for a while. Some people suggested therapy. Maybe that's something to explore down the line. Anyway, that's it.
So, first and foremost, do not approve of the cheating. I say it all the time on these videos, but I feel like we might be glossing over something here, especially since we're not reading comments for this one. But he mentions that his ex-girlfriend and his friend met each other after OP and his ex-girlfriend had a really big fight. And what did he say? He said he didn't remember it. OP mentions he was going through a hard time in his life, and then he says he tried to make things better. But then what did the girlfriend say? Things were only better for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe OP wasn't the best boyfriend? Again, I don't approve of the cheating, but there are times that people are driven to it for a reason. They cheat for a reason. Also, by the way, the friend was a huge douche. I hope a piano falls on his weenie. But he also said to OP, she wasn't your girl for the past 4 months. So maybe OP wasn't a good partner or as good of a partner as he thought he was. We don't have all the details here, but that feels like a feasible factor at the very least, especially having read so many of these stories. But what do you guys think? Next story. Story number 4. Am I the a-hole for going on my phone for an emergency at my best friend's wedding? I don't even know what to think right now. My best friend since childhood got married last weekend. She had an unplugged wedding. An unplugged wedding is where you don't go on your phone at all. I totally respect that, and might even do it for my future wedding. The entire morning of her wedding was beautiful, and the ceremony was unforgettable. When the reception began, my sister called me. I didn't answer, but was confused why she was calling me because I told my family to not contact me since it was no phones. She blew my phone up, sending me around 70 calls. It got to the point where I had to answer. My best friend is usually understanding, so I thought she would be okay with this. My sister told me my mom was in an accident. She's okay, by the way, only a concussion, and someone saw me on my phone and told my best friend. I went to go find my best friend to tell her I had to leave, and she yelled at me for being on my phone. I explained the situation to her, and she told me that that was not an excuse, and I could have waited till after the wedding. So I left immediately. Not only because of her stupidity, but because I also had to go to the hospital. She's texted me and cussed me out, telling me that it wasn't that hard to not be on my phone. A few of our friends and her husband also called me names. My family is saying I'm not the a-hole, but I can't help but feel bad. I also don't think this is worth losing a lifelong friend over. She was like a sister to me. Also, for context, I was not a bridesmaid. She didn't have any bridesmaids. Edit. Just to clear a few things up, because if I see one more comment saying I should have went somewhere more secret, I might lose it. I went to the parking lot. I tried the bathroom, but a few people were in there. The parking lot was empty. Also, this is not the first time my friend has been crappy. There have been other situations where she was the a-hole, like when I couldn't hang out because my sister was having a baby, and my sister wanted me there. She isn't very considerate, my friend is, when it comes to medical issues if you can't tell. Her honeymoon ends on Sunday, so I'll message her then. I'll definitely be removing the best part in best friend from now on. Then OP said in the comment section, I don't want to lose her as a friend, but the situation has definitely opened my eyes to other situations where I should have dropped her. I'm going to talk to her in a few days once she gets back from her honeymoon. I don't want to disturb her while she's enjoying her vacation. Final update. So I messaged her yesterday asking if we can talk. She said she doesn't want to meet in person because I might just up and leave if another one of my family members gets hurt. I asked if we can talk on the phone, and she said yes. I basically told her the entire story and my point of view. She told me I was still the a-hole and I wouldn't be invited to future events. She told me the reason she was so upset is because I stole her attention and light on her day. She acted like I planned this and planned for my mom to get into an accident to steal her shine? I basically told her that her point of view is effed up and self-centered. This incident has just made me realize how bad of a friend she actually is. I told her to not contact me and that we were not friends anymore. I also asked her who tattled on me when I was on the phone, and it was her mom. Her mom has always been the mom that doesn't like you. She has always treated me bad, so I'm not shocked. She tried changing her number and reaching out to me this morning, but I told her to stop trying to contact me or I will get the police involved. I also changed my number, so none of her family and friends can contact me. Okay, so this is an extra long video and the commentaries have been extra long as well, so I will keep this one short and say, narcissism. Who said that? Who said narcissist? Who said that? Where's that coming from? Anyway, next story. Story number 5. My boyfriend is moving in with his female best friend and their closeness makes me uncomfortable. So, my boyfriend and I have been together for just under a year. When we first started dating, he told me about Faith, one of his best friends. They have known one another since childhood and are extremely close. I didn't have a problem with this initially because Faith had a boyfriend, and the way she acted towards my boyfriend was the same way she acted towards another close male friend, so I thought it was just who she was. Just before Christmas, Faith and her boyfriend broke up. I never got the details, just that it was a really bad breakup. They were living together, and Faith needed a place to stay, so my boyfriend offered his couch. This is where I started getting uncomfortable. I told him I didn't like some girl staying at his place like this, and he told me it's temporary, and she's his best friend, and that I don't get a say in who he lends his couch out to. We argued, and eventually I relented. On New Year's, I wanted to go back to his place after the celebration at my friend's place, but he said Faith is there, and that we wouldn't be able to do anything, sleeping with each other, and I got annoyed, and I said she can listen to it for all I care. He got annoyed at that, and said he's not doing that. I asked him when she plans on moving out and getting her own place, and he said she's looking, but it's hard to find something in her price range. I went home alone that night. A week ago, he wasn't feeling the greatest, so I wanted to surprise him with some food, so I showed up to his apartment, and she answered the door in a tank top and very small pajama shorts. When she goes to have showers, I asked him if she walks around like that all the time, and he said yes, and saw me get annoyed and told me not to start. I asked him how he would feel if I had a close male friend living with me walking around half naked, and he said he would be uncomfortable, but that he would trust me not to do anything. I told him I do trust him, but it's still a boundary for me, and I asked again when she's moving out. That's when he dropped the bomb on me that the two of them have decided to look for a place together once his lease is up in March. I lost it. She heard us fighting and came out of the shower, dressed somewhat, and asked what was wrong, and told her I'm not comfortable with any of this. She apologized and said I better find a way to be comfortable with it. He didn't say anything, and when I said seriously, he sighed and told me she's right, that she's been his friend longer than I've been in his life, and this will benefit them both in the long run, so this is what's happening. I asked him what's going to happen if we wanted to move in together before the lease to whatever place they're getting is up, and he said that's something we can discuss if and when that happens. I was so unbelievably mad and insulted that I just left. I texted him later and asked him to think about what's more important, living with her or our relationship. And he said, that sounds like I'm giving him an ultimatum. And I said, that's not what I'm doing, but he's being unreasonable. We've been texting since, but it feels like it's probably the end of our relationship. I've brought up my discomfort about everything, including how close they are to my best friend, and she said there's nothing I can do, and that I would lose 100% of the time, which kinda pissed me off, because if he saw a future with me at all, then shouldn't he want to fight for us and make me feel comfortable in the relationship? Here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, so, you can't have sex because she's there. And now they're moving in together, so no sex? Between you and him at least. Then OP said, I guess not. Maybe it was because she's couch surfing at the moment and it's a small apartment. If she has her own room, maybe it would be different, but they wouldn't be moving in together until the end of March. So no sleeping with each other at his apartment, at least until then, is what I got from that. Then user 2 said, why didn't you guys just go over to your place? Unfortunately, I had to move back in with my mom last year due to financial reasons. She made it clear that she doesn't care if we have alone time when she's not home, but when she is, not to. And out of respect to my mom, that's what I'm doing. Then user 3 commented, as I always say on these, as a girl best friend to a guy for 10 plus years, I would never speak to his girlfriend like that. Then replying to that same comment, one user said, from your perspective then, what do you think she was trying to achieve by speaking to OP like this? And finally, user 4 said, I know the question is not directed at me, but from my point of view, she's probably trying to assert dominance as she's been here longer, plus he would choose her, and he has proven her right, to be honest. Update. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who commented and gave me advice and support. I did not expect this to blow up the way it did. As for an update, I texted him Thursday sometime after I made the post that I wanted to come pick things up I have at his place Friday after work. All he replied with was, sure. Last night after work, I went to his place, and when I got there, I texted him that I was in the parking lot and told him to bring my stuff down. I really did not want to deal with Faith, like at all. He eventually came downstairs with a box of my stuff. I went there with every intention on just getting my things and walking away, not saying a thing, but I don't know. It was like word vomit. I couldn't stop myself, and I asked him how long they've been sleeping together. He kinda laughed and said, it really doesn't matter now, does it? And I said, it kinda does if he's been sleeping with both of us at the same time. He said the night I stormed out of his place when he was sick was the first time they slept together since we've been together. I didn't ask if they've slept together before me. I feel like the way he worded his answer confirmed they have a history of hooking up, but maybe I'm reading into it. And then the last thing I said to him was that he needs to figure his stuff out because no woman is going to want to play second fiddle to her. I got in my car and left without letting him respond or even looking for a reaction. It didn't feel great to know that he cheated on me, even though I kind of expected it, to be honest. I think I'm somewhere between anger and indifference right now. I've deleted and blocked both of them on literally everything. I just want to move on from all of this. I know some of you are gonna say it's a lesson to be learned, but all I learned from this is to make sure that the next guy has no sexual history with any female friends before it becomes a relationship, because to hell with that. And here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, this sounds weird. Why all of a sudden now, during your relationship, when they've known each other for so long? It's also weird that if they would have been hooking up before you, why didn't they just become boyfriend and girlfriend? I'm immediately confused. Are they dropped on their heads or something? Or is it something else? I kind of feel like they have this weird obsession with each other, but for whatever reason won't date each other. I also don't believe they haven't been hooking up throughout our entire relationship. He's a cheater. Being a liar wouldn't be that much more of a stretch. OP, you sound really calm. Like, I would be infuriated. I would want to burn them kind of angry. You alright? I cried on the way home, and I'm sitting in bed eating ice cream, so I'm handling it as well as I can. So we had a story very similar to this recently, so much so that when I read the title, I was like, didn't we read this one already? But no, it's just the same instance of OP, the woman, and her boyfriend being lifelong friends or longtime friends with this other girl. And then they are just concernably close. The boyfriend and his female best friend are just too close for comfort, and something is definitely up. And that was the case here. I'm sorry, OP. It's just, what is is up with this stuff? It's codependency and it's on again but not off again. It's just too much. It's too much, y'all. I can't handle that. Y'all can dissect this one. This has been a long video. You already know what's wrong with that relationship. Talk about it in the comments, and it's so exhausting. I'm sorry, OP. I felt her anger, and now I want ice cream, and I want you to enjoy this video. I'm going to assume you did because you made it all the way to the end. We're at the end. We did it, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.